Hey guys, welcome back to the Desk Corner. Welcome of course to a new video, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And today's video is going to be a bit different because I'm going to be doing a Q&A. I've asked you guys to ask me art-related questions in the comment section on one of my videos, in the community tab, and even for those of you who are on my Discord server, you've asked me some questions as well, and on Instagram. So now I have a good amount of questions that I can go through and answer. Hopefully I can get to most of the questions in today's video, and I hope that this doesn't run too long either. And so let's just go ahead and jump straight into the questions right now. So the first question I'm going to answer is a fun one. What's your favorite medium to work with? My answer to that is colored pencil as of now. Colored pencil is still kind of challenging for me. I still feel like I'm learning with it, and with graphite and charcoal, that was like my very first medium I worked in, and I love graphite and charcoal, but there's just something about working with color, so I would say colored pencil is my favorite medium. Which type of pencil is perfect for sketching hairs, either graphite or charcoal pencils? Charcoal pencils are not great for sketching hairs because it's really hard to get a fine line. I would say either a harder grade graphite pencil like an H or maybe even an HB would work for hairs, and for colored pencil, of course, you can sharpen your pencil to get that result as well, but I find that the Faber-Castell Polychromos work really well for fine hairs and fur and things like that. How do you make drawing practice sessions more efficient and productive? What are some sketching exercises that can be done to improve art skills? If you're really serious about trying to improve your artwork faster, what you can do is maybe take a few notes after you draw something and write down a couple things you liked about it and a couple things you didn't like about it, kind of like strengths and weaknesses. Then if you see in the list of what you need to improve some common factors that keep popping up with each drawing, like maybe you think your proportions weren't as accurate, or maybe you thought your shading was a bit messy, your details weren't super great, you didn't have enough contrast, whatever it might be, maybe you're using colored pencils and you could improve in blending. And if you notice the same problems popping up over and over again, you can sort of focus in on those areas that need improvement. And it's much easier to see those things if you write it down and think about it a little bit after you finish a drawing. As far as sketching exercises, there's actually a lot, and I could go way deep into it, but not in this particular video. Look up gesture drawing. Also, you can turn a reference image sideways or upside down and draw it that way, so you're not super focused on what the subject is and you're more just focused on the actual lines and shapes and all of that. And sometimes you can do grid drawing if you would like to get better, or if you're very new to sketching and you want accurate proportions, you want to kind of break it down into smaller pieces. Next question is, what are the differences in GSM quality of paper? Why does it have various standards? That means some have 120 GSM and 180 GSM and more. So GSM is not actually the quality of the paper, rather it's like the weight. It's like grams per square meter, so it's kind of the weight or how thick or heavy the paper is. So if you have like a printer paper or a really thin sketch paper, it might be like, I don't know, 80 GSM, it might say something like that. That just means that it's very lightweight. And then if you have a watercolor paper, maybe it's more like 300 GSM, and it's a lot thicker because it has to be able to handle water. So depending on what medium you are using, you might want to go for a thicker paper. I personally don't like to use anything that has very low GSM, like something like printer paper or a very thin sketch paper, because it's hard to use that without crinkling it, and it can't take many layers of basically any medium. So I tend to go for a thicker paper. So it really just depends on what medium you're using and how thick of a paper you normally like to use. Any tips for getting accurate proportions in basic sketches of portraits? So if you're drawing a face just completely straight on, there's a couple of things you can keep in mind if you're a beginner. Like the first thing is, a lot of beginners draw the forehead way too small, but in reality it takes up a pretty large portion. I'm just like staring into the viewfinder at my own forehead, but it takes up a pretty large portion of the face. It's almost like a third of the entire face. Also, the ears usually end kind of close to where the nose ends, so the bottom of the ears usually line up close to the bottom of the nose. And you don't want your eyes to be too far apart, because sometimes people draw the eyes too close together or too far apart. There's usually enough room to fit maybe about like one eye in the middle of the two eyes, if that helps you to figure out how far apart the eyes should be. Usually the bottom of the nose, like these two parts of the nose, line up kind of sort of with the crease of the inner eye too. It just depends on the different faces, but those are some very kind of basic tips. People draw ears too small sometimes. Usually ears, as I said, end at the bottom of the nose area and kind of start near where the eyebrows are, so they're actually bigger than you would think. Tips for getting to the first 1,000 subs. I'm getting there by being consistent, but is there anything else you think would be good? So this is obviously a YouTube related question, and I definitely hear you on this. Getting your first 1,000 feels kind of like a long journey, I guess you could say. And I think the main thing when you have, I mean, even under like 10,000, my channel is pretty small still. A lot of people don't know that your videos even exist. And one way to kind of get your videos out there is to make some videos that are more searchable, or create titles for your videos at least that people can search up when they're in the search box on YouTube. And maybe they'll find you because your title includes a supply that they're looking for unboxing videos of, or a tutorial that they're looking for, or maybe even just something that's trending. I would also say to look at what your most popular videos are and make a couple similar to that, because if that's how a lot of people are finding your channel, it helps to make a continuation or a part 2 or something related to the videos that are most popular on your channel and that do the best. What do you do when you feel your art isn't improving and you get discouraged? Art is such a very long process, and improving takes a long time. I kind of like to look back at art that I did a year or 5 years ago, or even maybe more, to see the differences and how much I've improved at that point. But when you're kind of starting out, it's hard to see much improvement in a matter of like weeks or even months. If you feel like you're always having the same problem, or that you're messing up with a specific medium, it really helps to kind of just look up specific tutorials or maybe helpful hints or things for beginners on YouTube. That's what I did as I'm trying to learn watercolor, because I tend to make the same mistakes over and over and not know how to fix them. And if you find yourself in that position, don't be afraid to go on YouTube or even just on Google and try to search things up and see what kind of tips and techniques you can find. Also, if you're trying to learn something like, for example, portraits, and you're getting really frustrated, switch to something else for a while. Maybe something that is easier for you to do, but you feel more relaxed doing so. You don't want to stress yourself out too much and not have any fun over the process, so you can always switch either a style or subject matter or medium if you feel yourself getting too frustrated with something. The next question: how do you get the most out of your practice sessions? How much time should one commit to see enough improvements? You don't have to draw every single day. It's kind of unrealistic for a lot of people, but I would say that you should be practicing at least every week if you're really trying to improve. If you're very serious about trying to improve your skills in sketching or drawing or painting or whatever it might be. Also, it helps to switch up what you're drawing. So if you're used to drawing only animals, maybe try to switch it up and draw like an eye study for a person or a portrait or something like that. And that will help you to kind of, I guess, round out your skills a little bit more and learn how to draw different things. Next question is, do you pick out your subjects in advance or are they spontaneous? Okay, so most of the time I have an idea for something, like I want to draw a specific animal, or maybe I know a specific person that I want to draw, and then I try to go onto those royalty-free sites where I can find reference photos to use for that, and I spend a really long time searching for one that I want to use. Sometimes if I just don't have any idea what I want to draw, I might just go and search through random images until I find something that might inspire me, but usually I have some idea in mind of kind of something that I want to draw, whether it be an animal, a person, or a flower, or something like that. Have you ever done a self-portrait? No, I actually have been meaning to do that. For some reason, I feel weird doing a self-portrait. I don't really like to take a lot of pictures either of myself, and a lot of them are not super close-up or high-quality photos, the ones that I do have. So I guess I could do a self-portrait at some time. I actually just wanted to do that and make it my profile photo. I think that would be fun. Maybe I'll do that in the near future. When did you realize you had a talent at drawing, and how many years of art school did you go to? So I didn't actually go to art school, and I took a couple art classes, I think, as like electives in high school and middle school, and I even took like an art history class in college, but that's about it. Everything else I either learned from the internet or I just kind of practiced and developed myself. I've always liked drawing ever since I was very young, and then I kind of was using these drawing books my mom gave me when I was a kid, and I would sometimes practice drawing cartoon characters or fun things like that. So my whole life I've kind of had an interest in it, but I didn't really get serious about drawing until I was maybe 15 or 16, and that's when I actually started to practice and see a lot of improvement. I'd love to hear how you got into art and drawing and what made you decide to start a YouTube channel. So that coincides with my last question a little bit. As far as the YouTube channel goes, I've always kind of wanted to make a YouTube channel because I was really inspired by people like Heather Rooney back in like maybe 2013 or 2014, and Kirsty Partridge a few years ago. I found their channels and I was inspired, and they were using mediums that people didn't talk about in art classes back in high school, like colored pencil, and watercolor was never a huge medium people talked about much in art classes. So I guess YouTube is really the way that I discovered a lot of things with art, but also it's very much a creative outlet for me too. I love talking about art on here. If it weren't for this channel, it would be just me talking to myself about pencils all the time. Now, a couple of questions from Instagram really quickly. These are very short questions. Do you watch anime? I actually don't watch anime. How to blend colored pencil and ways to blend graphite. I have a couple of videos on these subject matter where I go over a lot of different ways for beginners how to blend colored pencil and graphite. It's my colored pencil beginner series and my graphite beginner series. When's that digital art gonna come? I'm not super into digital art. I think that it's fun. I would like to experiment more with it, but I have so many supplies that I feel like I can't waste them at this point, and I really just need to use all my traditional supplies. And I do like the concept of being able to undo things and have layers and different things like that in digital art. So it's not something I'm completely closed off to, but I would prefer to use all of these physical products and supplies that I actually do have. What is your favorite medium and why? So I did answer that it was colored pencil. I guess I could add to it one of the reasons is because unlike other colored media, like let's say acrylic paint or oil paint or watercolor paint, which are very common too, with colored pencil you have a lot more control and you can blend for larger areas, but also you can get all those tiny details. And me personally, I just struggle with a paintbrush, so colored pencil is my favorite and I like it more than graphite and charcoal just because you have that range of color you can work with. Have you tried Fabriano Bristol Smooth Paper? I haven't. I've tried Fabriano Artistico Hot Pressed Watercolor Paper, and I haven't tried any other Fabriano paper, but that sounds like something that I would want to try in the future. How long have you been doing art and did you take courses? And I answered this one already before, but also I think I've been working on art consistently for like about 8-ish years now, maybe 9. What are your goals in your art life and what do you do to attain it? So I have a couple of goals. My first one, well, is to improve in watercolor, a medium that I don't really work on very much, but that I'm trying to get into, and recently I've bought a very nice watercolor set that inspires me to work in watercolor more, so I want to get better at that particular medium. Also business-wise, I want to turn my art into more of a business to be able to make money from it, so that way it can be a bigger part of my life and not just a hobby. It's something I'm very passionate about and I'd love to have it as one of the main focuses in my life, but for that to happen I'd have to turn it into more of a business, and so that's kind of where I'm going here with my YouTube at this point and in the future with my Patreon. When drawing from a reference, how do you draw a part that you can't see clearly? I know what you're talking about here. I don't like working from fuzzy or blurry reference images because of this problem, but I would say if you're having trouble with a specific area in a photo, maybe change the photo to grayscale, or maybe even mess with the contrast a little bit and see if you can identify any lines or shadows that way. Okay, you guys, I think I'm going to cut this video here. I answered most of the questions, and I hope that my answers were helpful to some of you guys. Thank you to all of you who did ask me questions, and I'm sorry if some of them were off the top of my head. I also didn't want to go too detailed and make this video 40 minutes long either. Thank you to all of you guys who are supporting my channel and watching today's video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys!